You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy podcast, with Rye for Borough, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Good morning. Welcome along to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy podcast, and it is good morning to Ted and good morning to Rye, who are sitting nervously, I would say, this morning, because it is the Derbysh coming up on Monday, and I think we will be talking about that in depth today. Newcastle, of course, play today at home against Fulham. I'll be giving my views on that, and anybody's got any questions or points that they want to bring up, jot them into the chat, and we will come to that as well. And at half an hour in, we do have the cat and the various trolls of the week that we've been sent around the football world. But good morning to everybody in the chat, and good morning to everybody. Please give it a share, and don't forget to give us all a follow. Ted the MACKEM, Inrictus, and at Steve Wraith on X, and you'll be able to find the links for our podcasts on X. Get yourselves over to there, maybe after the show. But morning, lads, and Rye. This is it. This is it. We've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. Everybody's been, excited about this big game. When you look at the league table at the moment, Sunderland sitting in fourth place, 55 points, 5 points off the top. Borough sitting in seventh, mind the gap, as our good friend would say, sitting on 44 points. Is this a must-win game for Borough if you've got any hopes of, troubling that top two spot?
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, Michael Carrick spoke about it in depth yesterday. It's a crazy, crazy game. Obviously, the game was moved to be on free-to-air TV. We are that big of a club. Sunderland were just lucky that we got picked up for that. It's obviously at the magnificent Riverside Stadium. The biggest thing for us, I know, probably for Sunderland as well, is it falls on deadline day as well. So not only have we got a match of football at 7 p.m. at night, we've also got deadline day to deal with as well. So it's going to be an interesting day all round, I think, with lots of moves, touted for both teams. We won't really know. There might be a signing that morning, on deadline day that could, I'm not sure if they can register in time. But yeah, look, it's an exciting game. It's one that for Middlesbrough, I think there's more on the line than there is for Sunderland. Sunderland are there or thereabouts and have been all season. They haven't really moved, where Middlesbrough seem to float up to, anywhere to fourth and then quite happily to drop down to 10th with the given performances. So for Middlesbrough, you shut the window shut, and it's time to sort of really start getting serious. I believe now Michael Carrick cannot complain on not being given the tools with the signings of Morgan Whittaker, George Edmondson. Now we went and got Travers, the goalkeeper, as well. And there's more to come, apparently, if we do turn this Latte Lath into a £23 million bid as well. If we turn that, into a bit of a nice profit, there's no excuses on why we couldn't be, recruiting quite well. So look, massive game for Middlesbrough. I would say the pressure is on more Middlesbrough because we need to win. We need to get in touch with that top six, and we need to cement our place there so that we can push for playoffs. We're only 3 points better off this time than last season. And last season, we all know how bad it was with injuries, as was Newcastle sort of thing. So it's a massive game for Middlesbrough. A lot of pressure, I would say, on our neck of the woods rather than Sunderland, because given where they are, we would much rather be where Sunderland are right now. And for that, I would say it's a must win for Borough.
Okay. Is it a derby, right?
Yeah, 100% it's a derby. They're our local rivals. They're the closest to us. Look, I know there's no traditional rivals. You could argue the same with Leeds, but it is. There's something, you can't argue that there's not something more to this game when it comes around. It's the first game that Borough fans and probably the Mackems look at don't tell me to shush, okay? It's a derby, all right? And and I just think, I honestly think it's got something more to it. And the players know it. You can feel it in the atmosphere. We saw it at the Stadium of Light. There was a massive crowd when Riggy backheeled that goal. There is something more to it. And you can't argue that the players and the fans and the staff and everyone don't feel it. You know what I mean? And they always address it. It's always the same question. Is it a derby? Well, we can continue asking this same question year in, year out. But the fact of the matter is they're our closest local team rivals in the championship. We're nowhere near Newcastle at the moment. So, it's the Northeast derby for me, for sure.
Okay. How are you feeling then, Ted? Is there a feeling of contentment at the moment and feeling of superiority between Sunderland and Middlesbrough? Are you feeling like, you just need to turn up and win this game, or are you slightly concerned because Borough have, recruited, quite intelligently, I would probably say, so far in this window, and it puts a different complexion on it. And although a win for Borough on Monday won't see them overtake you, it does bring them that little bit closer to you. And depending on results, of course, could mean that you fall further behind those teams that you're aspiring to catch up with. So it's an interesting one, this for Sunderland, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like superiority is concerned, probably only since about 1892 we felt superior over Middlesbrough. Moving on. It's a game of kind of like two different complexions, really, because you've got the fact that it's we've jokingly called it a derbish for a year and a bit now between us. It's not the derby, but I personally do treat it like it's a derby. It's a local rival. It's always nice to get one over on the local rival. We've got 2 seconds.
Is that Stelios?
Honestly, he's going absolutely mental.
That's his new cat latte.
Just, I doubt it. So yeah, there's the fact that it is a local rivalry. We play horrendously bad at the Riverside. I can't remember the last time we won there. So that's kind of would due a result there. Not just squeaking a draw through Roussin, managing to get one late on in the game. Won't happen this time because he's already off. So he's gone on loan. So yeah, we're due a performance there, and I think that's kind of what the Sunderland fans are waiting to see. The other side of the coin is the fact that our friends in the broadcast industry, certainly at Sky, are already talking about this automatic promotion race being between 3 teams rather than 4, i.e. excluding Sunderland out of that, which is just arrogant in the extreme. We're 11 points clear of the team in 5th position, which obviously, we know who they are, with a superior goal difference as well. So, with 7 or 8 goals better off in goal difference, it's worth a point at the end of the season, to use the old adage. So I think there's a bit of proven to ourselves that we are worthy of being up there and being considered for automatic promotion, and not just, looking at the squeak into the playoffs. In terms of staffing, it's going to be very, very interesting because there's been a little bit of attention around Dan Neil, West Ham and Everton starting to sniff around him a little bit. I can't see him going right now. I think to lose your captain at that stage would be it would be a bit of a strange decision. However, what I will say is that Samed, who's been brought in on loan, actually played in the deeper role in the last game against Plymouth, which has typically been occupied by Dan Neil. Dan Neil was actually pushed further on. So we're spoiled for choice with attacking midfielders. You've got Riggy, you've got Job. Obviously, we've got Lafay now as well. So there's options there. And I just think, could we lose Dan Neil before the end? To lose Dan Neil, I think, before a derby game like that would be a bit of a blow, because that's where he does come into his own, not when he's being cheated out of an Aussie referee and being sent off for just saying cruel words to him. Yeah, Tom, I can hear the cat as well. I'm going to swing for him in a minute. Honestly, he's doing my napper in.
We all hate cats, right?
I love cats.
It's the only one out of the 4 that actually you hear. So, listen, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting game. There's more pressure on Middlesbrough, I think, to to catch up, to start and chip away at that. Yeah. For me, we've got 2 difficult away games left this season. We've got Leeds and we've got Middlesbrough. Take a draw from them both, I'd be more than happy to move on with that. I'm not bothered about winning the games. Let's just crack on. Let's grab the point and then rely on that home form, which has been tremendous, apart from obviously a bit of a sucker punch against Plymouth.
Okay, well, seeing that you brought that up, I'm going to start with you on my next question, and that was, what went wrong last weekend? Was it because we predicted, because I predicted a 5-0 win for Sunderland, that Sunderland drew 2-2 with Plymouth? I mean, that's got to be the worst result of the season so far, Ted.
I think if Labrise is honest, he got that wrong. I think that was the first time we've seen him tactically get it wrong. It was, but I feel like we waited too long for the substitutions, and it just felt like we had too many defenders on at that stage. I feel like we should have been going in for the kill rather than, you know, sitting back and sort of protecting a 1-goal lead. We need to learn from that, and we need to go and finish teams off. There was chances to put them away. It was just a typical sucker punch, and Plymouth are fast turning into a bit of a bogey side for us, to be honest with you. I mean, that's literally what we've taken a point off Plymouth this season when everybody else is absolutely murdering them. So yeah, listen, it's a blip. The league home record is still intact. We are very, very difficult to beat at the Stadium of Light. We win more games than we draw or lose. So we've got that kind of 100% record still intact. Yeah, it's a bit of a blow, but the thing that I'm hoping for is a bit of a reaction to that. Obviously, you know, there was some disappointment there. There's players at the back who I think need to step up a little bit and step up to another level. And this game on Monday just represents a perfect opportunity to bounce back from that and really, you know, turn the screw on automatic promotion.
Right, a defeat last week, and again, I mean, I think if I remember rightly, you said that it wasn't going to be an easy game, but you know, 2-1 at Preston. You know, it was. I don't really think Borough really turned up at that game, to be honest, right?
No, it was frustrating, mate. Latte Lath going off in the first 5 minutes, 7 minutes, I think, with a groin injury, kind of sort of tell the tale of the afternoon. It was then sort of. We sat back. It's at Deepdale. I mean, Paul Heckenbottom's a heck of a coach, by the way. Tactically, he got it right. He just sat back and defended deep. You know, not once did I not see 11 Preston men in the box defending, you know, letting Ben Doak cross in, but there was just no one there because there was 11 Preston men sitting there. And then they get us on the counter. And they scored two good goals thanks to us absolutely being the most joke of a team defending whatsoever. Honestly, lads, if you ever want to laugh, please look at the 2 goals that Preston scored, because the second goal especially, I mean, we were talking about this before. I got demonetized on YouTube because I swore too much. It was that such was the level of defending that we put up. But look, it was frustrating. It's one of those games, again, where Middlesbrough seem to do well against the teams they shouldn't, and poor against the teams they should beat. And, you know, Preston were no different. Unfortunately, we just keep shooting ourselves in the foot. It's been a big week or so, though, in between them, with Morgan Whittaker, a new goalkeeper, George Edmondson coming in on it. You know, it's actually been a complete, you know, it was a feeling of, and I spoke to someone about this within the club. He summed it up. There was a feeling of staleness around the club, and I think January has really freshened things up for us. Morgan Whittaker's a massive signing, and I think that, you know, putting that Preston one behind us is a big step forward, and you know, unfortunately doesn't get any easier with Sunderland. But yeah, look, the Preston game was it sums us up this season, you know, in terms of we just keep beating ourselves. Unfortunately, we let soft goals in, we make defensive errors, and, you know, good teams punish those, and that's what you need to do at the Championship or in the Premier League if we ever get there. So yeah, look, it was a sad day for Borough fans. I think it was a tough day to watch, and that's one we don't want to look on.
Good day for the swear jar, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was massively, mate. The jar got absolutely. It paid for the trip back to England. I put Ted in first class today as he flies back. So it's incredible. So yeah, no, it was a frustrating day, mate. But look. As I said, the team that's going to line up against craziness, the team that lines up against Preston will be completely different on Monday night against Sunderland. And that's the craziness of January transfer window. We're going to have a good 4 to maybe 5 players that are completely different from that lineup. And that's going to be interesting to see how they can react at Sunderland.
What are you feeling about the transfer window, Ted?
I think ours was always going to be more about who we shift out than who we bring in. Or people who were trying not to ship out as well, I suppose. Like, obviously, the likes of Job, that rumour won't go away. Real Madrid are very much on his radar now. Ancelotti has actually kind of, you know, jokingly said to his brother that he signed the wrong brother, which is always nice to hear, I guess. But he's starting to get a lot of attention, so it's about keeping a hold of players like him. a couple of players that have been linked with us. It hasn't quite come off. In fact, Middlesbrough were linked with the same striker, Lancashire, who came was at Spurs. He's joined Tony Mowbray at West Brom. So yeah, it's more about who we let go. Aushish, who I thought did brilliantly over Christmas. I thought it was superb.
That was a surprise one.
But he plays in that same role as what Lafay does, and Lafay is streets ahead of him, to be honest with you. And of course, we've got Romain Mundle to come back as well. So he was going to find his chances limited again. Listen, I think it's a shrewd bit of business letting him go on loan at Portsmouth. Portsmouth is starting to pick up some form, as Bry will testify to as well. They are starting to play really well. I think going down to Pompey will be a great move for him, getting regular football. Shrewd bit of business in the fact that if we do get promoted, then we've got to buy Lafay, which is a great signing for the club anyway. It'll be a club record signing. If we don't get promoted, then Aushish comes back in that similar role, and he's got first team, some actual game time about it. So for me, the window's been well managed so far. I would still like to see a couple of signings in, to be honest with you. I think we could possibly do. I'm going to get shot for this, but Dennis Serkin at the minute has been a little bit out of form, and he's somebody who's normally so good. Great going forward. He's got a good cross on him. He's keen to attack. I just don't think he's getting the defensive side of his game right at the minute. So maybe a left back. I would personally love to see another centre back come in. That's to accompany MACKEM, because I think O9's just been caught ball watching a couple of too many times. Ballard is in and out the side. He can't get back in. And then, of course, there's the old familiar tale in January. I think we could do with a striker. Tom's just nailed it there. Do you think you need a striker in? I do. I do think we need another striker in. I think we need a different option. I think we need a bit of a bully of a striker. Somebody who's not afraid to actually, get stuck in, be a bit of a nightmare for centre backs. I'm not talking about anybody, lethal and sort of drilling them in from 20 yards. I'm talking about somebody who can really just be a battering ram against centre backs, because I think that's something we slightly miss out of our game right now. But Christian Speakman is well known for not signing strikers in January. So that remains to be seen whether they get another one. The rumours are that we will see another couple of signings, whether they get done in time for the Derbysh. I doubt. I think they have to be registered by midday the day before. Yeah,
it's correct.
Yeah. I kind of see us getting them in over the line. I think it's going to be very much for later on the season and add some depth. The other one that came about yesterday, our transfer window, which it was a bit of a surprise, is Tommy Watson has been targeted by Brighton, crazy, which is very, very interesting. He's got, I think, 12 or 18 months left on his contract. Tommy Watson is very, very highly rated at the club. A lot of people seem to be quite interested in the guy. So we'll wait and see what happens with that, because if it's 12 to 18 months left on the contract, you're not going to get an absolute mountain for it. So we need to see what's going to happen there. It'd be disappointing to see a local talent go, but hopefully they get the right amount of money if he does go. But I'd rather them hold on to him.
Thoughts on Graham's question, Ted?
Is your squad good enough? Honest question. Enough quality, enough depth. Yes, I think there's. I'm going to have to fence sit here, Graham. I'm so sorry, mate, but yes, I think there's good enough quality in there. Is the squad deep enough? No, because I don't think we can replace players in the first team with equal or better quality, and that's where your bench needs to be better. I think we need somebody, to be honest, add to the shopping list a right winger, because at the minute Paddy Roberts is in and out of form. He's not hitting the back of the net. His service has never been doubted, but yeah, I think that depth is a little bit lacking, particularly going forward. Is where we could do with a bit more depth there. Have we got enough to get over the line? It remains to be seen. But listen, we're in fourth place. We're 3 points off the top. Anything can happen, because we're still waiting for Leeds. Leeds will blow it in March. They always do. They'll absolutely Easter egg it and just go to bits. Burnley don't massively impress me.
They're boring.
Yeah, they get the job done, but I hate to be a Burnley fan, to be honest.
God.
And Sheffield United, let's just hope all the wheels come off, because I can't stand Chris Wilder.
And the sandwiches.
And his sandwiches.
Yep.
I love that. Okay, Barry asked a question earlier, which teased me up nicely before we get into the Troll of the Week section. He says, Steve, do you feel the club has let Eddie down with the lack of incomings, and do you think we will ever escape the shadow of PSR? Great question, Barry. Very deep for a Saturday morning. Well, let's cover it first. I mean, Newcastle's transfer window has been exactly what it said on the tin. It's exactly what Eddie told us it was going to be. Nothing's happening. We're not bringing anybody in. He reiterated it at the press conference yesterday morning in front of the press pack, and basically had to explain his feelings about Miggy leaving. How do I feel about Miggy leaving? First and foremost, well, it's a great move for him personally, great move for his family, and Newcastle did well. Paul Mitchell did well to get such a good fee. I mean, we'll never ever know the full ins and outs, costings of transfers. There's always some little caveat added, and sometimes it's wages, sometimes it's a signing on fee. But we're led to believe it's the deal's in the region of £8 million, which will go a long way to helping Newcastle's PSR for the summer transfer window. But it's as expected, really, Barry. It's the club have managed our expectations. I think it's very disappointing, the lack of activity that we've had across the space of 3 windows, but by all accounts, it's because we spent so much in the first 3 windows to stay up and then to have a go at the Champions League. And I think we've talked about it on NUFC Matters. We've shown the figures, how far Newcastle are behind in commercial revenue. All of this has been driven, I guess, towards an inevitable announcement, whether it's, before the end of the season or whether it's later in the year, that we're going to have a new ground and where that will be. And until we, are allowed to increase our commercial revenue, and until Newcastle are regular, competitors in the Champions League, we're always going to be behind the likes of those teams that you see at the top of the financial tree. Doesn't mean that we can't compete. Doesn't mean that we can't inevitably win a trophy, and it doesn't mean that we can't be regularly, in and around the Champions League places. You just need to look at the table at the moment to see how far we've come in a short space of time. Previous seasons, Newcastle couldn't finish above Manchester United. It was the only team that hadn't finished above. Last season, we did it. This season, we're currently double figures away from Manchester United at this moment in time. You never thought that day was coming. That is an improvement on where we were 3-4 seasons ago. We are in a different kind of landscape now. We're not worried, about relegation anymore. We're not worried about really losing star players on a season to season basis. It is disappointing though as a fan, because you do want to see Eddie Howe given the opportunity to grow the squad, to build a team around your blue chip players like Alexander Isak, like Sandro Tonali, and like Anthony Gordon. And you want to see Newcastle invest in some of these players we're linked with. I think it says a lot that Barry, who is in the chat this morning, who sends us a spreadsheet of players that Newcastle have been linked with, in the summer it was over 200. I think it is over 100 now, but less players linked with Newcastle in this window tells you that it's probably now in a situation where the journalists are clearly thinking, well, there's no point in speculating, because Newcastle fans won't click on it now, because ultimately they know that there's nobody coming in. Am I convinced that Monday might see Newcastle bring somebody in on the right-hand side to compensate for Miggy leaving? Look, it's a possibility. Anything can happen in football. I was doing a talk in with Lee Clark last night, and Lee was talking about his son Bobby, and Bobby, of course, as we know, is Red Bull Salzburg. But at the moment, I think Lee is quite hands-on with Bobby's moving and shaking. And there's 5 clubs have been in for him this week, for young Bobby making offers. Amongst them have been Celtic and Rangers, both keen on bringing maybe him to a new club, and that really is something which could happen at Newcastle. It might just be something that happens, and Lee will say 1 minute it looks as if the deal's done, the next minute it goes cold, and that's the situation I think Newcastle find themselves in. We are seemingly heavily linked with Tyler Dibblin at Southampton. I think most people would see that as a good move for him and a good move for us. And I think that would be a positive signing. But there's also, you know, some ludicrous links as well, which we've seen. But honest opinion, do I think they've let him down, which was your question, Barry? I don't think they've let him down. I think they've just got to do what they do, because they can't let the club down. You know, the club is in a financial mess, thanks to Mike Ashley. And until we can get to that kind of level again, where we're competing and being able to go out and spend money again, it's always going to be difficult. The rules either have to change or Newcastle have to improve their commercial revenue. And lots of people complaining, saying, well, where's the sponsorships? And, you know, we've had a chat about it on our podcasts. Peter Silverstone, what's he doing? But let's think about it, right? If you think about the stadium, at the moment, Newcastle, doing a feasibility study. They're looking potentially to build a new stadium off the back of St James's on Leazes Park. What sponsor is going to come in and sponsor St James's Park when they know that there's a new St James's Park going to be built? That's the problem Newcastle have created for themselves. You know, no one's going to come in and say, you know, there is a wonderful sponsorship if they know that it could be changed 4 or 5 years down the line. And that's how long it's going to take, I would say, to get a feasibility study finished, to get the planning and permission done, and then obviously to build the stadium. So it's not going to happen overnight. So I think that's one of the sticking points. I get it why people are saying, well, what about the training ground sponsor? Well, of course, Newcastle are looking to build a new training ground. So a training ground sponsor is going to be the same. So there are other things they can do. There are other ways of making money. Unfortunately, at the moment, it looks like it's the fans who are going to pay. You know, and if you want to go to the match, you're going to have to pay. Prices are going to go up. The Platinum Club is going to go up in price next year because, you know, the vast majority of fans in the Platinum Club were still on the 10-year deal, which was extended because of COVID. That ends this season. That means that season tickets in that area, which are as little as £562, will double in price. There's no doubt about that. The boxes at St James's Park, the corporate boxes, of which there's a 300 waiting list, well led to believe, for corporate boxes, and are on average price £50,000 at this moment in time, will go up. The index thing to go up by 20%. Which you know, again, businesses, you know, have got to find the money. You know, it sounds like a drop in the ocean, but that's not 50 grand, that's 60 grand. You know, so suddenly 60 grand for a box. Under Ashley, people got all their cup games included in that. You only get one FA Cup game and one League Cup game. You have to buy your tickets for the rest. So a few of those boxes have stood empty apparently this season. So
it costs money to decorate the box for the opposition fans, though.
Well, we could get Sunderland involved in that, yeah, 100%. But you know what? I'm not disappointed, lads. I'm not disappointed. It's because we were told by Eddie at the start of this transfer window not to expect anything. That was my mindset. I'm not expecting anything to happen. So if it doesn't happen, then you can't see he didn't tell us. Do I think it's going to affect us moving forward this season? Of course it is. We could get injuries. Well, we are literally an Alexander Isak and Jacob Murphy injury away from not having anybody to compete over the next few weeks until we get Callum Wilson and Harvey Barnes back. Wilson's due back in a week's time. He was training again this week, but not doing the full training session. But they're saying he could be available maybe for the Birmingham Cup game. Harvey Barnes is slightly behind. He's not expected to be back on the grass until maybe 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time. So, you know, attacking options, because Miggy's gone, are somewhat limited now if we get injuries. But if we don't get injuries, and we'll continue in the same vein of form, then, you know, we will be fine. But as Graham says, PIF are investing across the club. Patience is a virtue. So yeah, I mean, that's the kind of mindset you've got to have. You know, we can't complain. We're getting some great games, some great performances, some wonderful goals. We're at the right end of the table, and we're getting cup runs, which we've never had for many years on a regular basis. And potentially on Wednesday, we could be in our second League Cup final in 3 years, which, you know, is something to be proud of. And, you know, law of averages says you'll win one day. So, you know, we've just got to accept that. Lots of questions coming in. Thank you very much.
I've got one for you, Steve, as well. Yeah, I've got a question just relating to the commercial revenue side of things. It is a very serious show this morning, isn't it? Blimey.
It is, yeah. I'm in shock.
So, you did say you were going to do something completely different. So yeah.
Look at Ryan serious. Ryan was doing a serious face there. Unless he was.
I know. He's got wind.
Lipstick on as well, I think. Lipstick, he's got lipstick and he's got lipstick and rouge on as well.
Yeah, well,
I do.
Our little Belisha Beacon. No, quick question for you, Steve. Where do you stand on naming rights for the stadium? Because obviously, it's no secret Newcastle need to improve on the commercial revenue. I know it's a one that divides fans, but if there was a sponsor came in that wanted to name St James's Park something else after their own business name, where do you stand on it?
You know what? If it's done correctly and it's done properly, and you have that opportunity to make money from it, Newcastle fans wouldn't object to that. It was the way that it was done last time. It was the fact that it was just one morning we woke up and the ground that we've always called St James's Park for many, many years was suddenly called Sports Direct Arena. And it was done for one reason, to promote sports. Just a joke to really promote our former owners, sports brand. Exactly, that was it. And I mean, we were unfortunate in that sense that we all fell for it. Me included. We were all parts of the campaign to try and drive Ashley out. And you know what? I don't regret it. I don't regret, protesting against Ashley. With hindsight, I would have done it in a different way. But ultimately, you know what? It's in the past now. Newcastle United fans, if they were consulted about it being called, Saudi Airlines at St James's Park, and it was bringing in millions of pounds, which ultimately helped us. I wouldn't be miserable about it at all. Anyway. Time to lighten the mood a little bit, and we have, I can't see Jules in the chat this morning, but I'm sure she'll catch up. Troll of the week. Some good ones this week. Thanks to Jimmy for this one. Sky Sports have unveiled their latest channel. He said Sky Sports Golf, Sky Sports Football, Sky Sports Formula, and Sky Sports Isaac to Arsenal. Anyway, it's feeling. And the even track 1995, 1998, 2000, 2001, 2006, 2015, and Ange Postecoglou Spurs logo in the bottom. Thank you to Troll Football for that one.
Love it.
And then the Arsenal fan said that the ref's corrupt for sending off some Lewis Skeleton kid. Very good. And there we go. Miles Lewis Skelly will be suspended for the trip to Manchester City as well as the game against Newcastle. Who sent him off? Michael Oliver, a Newcastle fan. It's bad. It's corruption. It needs to be called out. Share it everywhere. God, Arsenal fans really are the ones that keep on giving. Jimmy Moore, thanks for this one. Chelsea have unveiled a Robert Sanchez statue outside Stamford Bridge. And I like this one. Look at this magpie. Typical magpie, lads.
Classic. He's just on the beers.
On the beers.
Good on him.
Loved it. Sky Sports Premier League. Alexander Isaac holds Newcastle into the lead with the 17th Premier League goal of the season. This is the guy, of course, who then said potentially going to Arsenal. Not fancy talking to my face, Luke. I was sat at the game and always happy to chat, especially after some of the recent questions and press conferences I've seen from you. Imagine if I went straight on Twitter to have a pop. Live TV is live TV. Now, this all stems from a proper spat between Mark McAdam and Luke Edwards, who basically had a huge argument. So have a look on there on Twitter. It's still up there because he linked Isak to Arsenal again as part of his commentary. No reason to do it at all, but he did anyway. It's well worth a watch. This was brilliant. Please answer these questions. Which football match did you go to today? Did you enjoy it? Who did you go with? And did anything make you laugh? Mike Ward replied, Belfast Town versus Dunstan. Football-wise, not much. Got stuff 5-1. There's a social event. Yeah, it was a grand afternoon. Son and daughter met friends at the match. Joshua shouting, "Shut it, Jimmy Nail," at a Dunstan fan. And this is the winner this week, chaps. Michael Owen. Well, I thought Liverpool would have too much tonight. They didn't do much wrong, but all credit to Real Madrid. It's a club that simply wins on the big occasion. Danny, if I was on a desert island with you and a tin of corned beef, I'd eat you and talk to the corned beef. Brilliant. Now that's a troll.
We all side with them on that one, I think.
I'm going to finish with this. Lads. I know you like these. You can choose only one, lads. You can choose only one.
Here we go. Now it's a show.
The rest are destroyed. The rest are destroyed forever. Choose wisely, so you can only choose one, lads.
Okay, I'll go first and kick it off. Luke, I'm going to go the crunchy. Chocolate, honeycomb, I'm set. I mean, look, they're all very, very good chocolate bars, but crunchy. Crunchy every day of the week. Call me crunchy. I'm done.
All right. What about you then, Ted?
This is a tough one because bottom left, Cadbury's Caramel. I've loved it ever since the rabbit was probably my first ever crush. But I think I have to go for... Steve knows what I mean. I'm going to go with the Boost, a biscuit Boost, because it's got that caramel. It's got a bit of difference and a bit of biscuit. You get a little bit of a different sensation. So yeah, I'm keeping the Boost. Okay, for me, lads, it's Yorkie all day long.
Classic.
I mean, I've got to be honest, I do prefer the Yorkie biscuit and raisin. But that Yorkie Originals always felt as if it's like value for money. I've always liked it. And yeah, where is the Texan boss, says Graham. But yeah, that's my choice. Great stuff, that. Thanks to Stephen Kennedy for sending that in. If you've got a troll of the week, you can email me at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Or
the comment there. That's a hell of a pull, Ted, but the rabbit was tidy. He's right, though.
But was the rabbit not going out with Dylan from the Magic Roundabout? I'm pretty sure she was. She used to go, hello. This is getting a bit weird. Okay, you know where to send trolls of the week. Get them in for next week. When we do these, we always get a load of topics from Digital Lab. Bounty says tough enough. Star Bar every time. No contest. Crunchy. Green with Rise says Lungful Drummer. Lots of people have got their own favourites on there. Matches on ITV4 on Monday. For those that know Digital Rage.
Free to air.
You are right. Okay, Barry. This is a question really for both of you guys. Says Ted. It would be amazing to see all big three North East teams back in the Premier League. Do you think you will cope if you come up? So it's a question to you both. Ted, I'll ask you first because he directed it to you.
Honestly, I don't think any club coming up from the Championship can cope at this moment in time. Even ones who have been financially very, very well backed, clubs with deeper pockets than what Sunderland and Middlesbrough have as well. I genuinely think we'd have to do what Fulham did over a few years, which was, get relegated, rely on the parachute payments, and keep the nucleus of a squad together, spend wisely, and get back up. And they did it gradually. The advantage that the likes of Brentford and them had when they went up is you can attract big players to the London area. Middlesbrough and Sunderland are always going to struggle in terms of bringing in the quality players that you absolutely do need to survive in the Premier League. It's not guaranteed to work, of course, but I honestly don't think we would survive in it. I'd be very, very pleasantly surprised if we were to go up. I can't see us doing as bad as what we did when we had that horrendous season under Mick McCarthy, of course, but it could happen. You look at Ipswich, who blew a lot of teams away in the Championship last season, and they look like a pub team by comparison. Southampton the same. Southampton are dreadful, and it's not that they're dreadful football clubs. It's just that gulf is just getting wider and wider, and the longer it takes you to get promoted, I think the more that gap is going to develop. So it's a great question. I just doubt any team coming up at this moment in time could survive at the first time of asking.
Right. What about you?
Yeah, I think we could come up and win it all and the Champions League quite easily in the first season. I think we've got the know-how, we've got the skill, we've got the depth. I think Tommy Conway is pretty much, I think Isaac is a poor man's Tommy Conway, to be honest with you. Isaac watches Tommy Conway highlights and just reiterates what he wants to do. So, no, look, I think I completely agree with Ted. How can I not? Every team that goes up, teams that blow us away in the Championship, you see them come back down and they are top of the Championship. Again, like this season, Burnley, Leeds, you know what I mean? They're all up there. And Sheffield United, who got, what was it? They leaked in the most amount of goals ever in a Premier League season, are top of the championship. So it shows you that they are not a bad football club. It's just the gap into the Premier League is way too big. And unless you do, and we've said this week in, week out, unless you go up and do a Nottingham Forest where you teeter the line, if not cross it in terms of breaking the transfer to just completely rebuild the squad, then you really don't have a hope, and you've really got to break the bank. And I just don't think Sunderland and Middlesbrough are the types of teams to go up and do a Nottingham Forest. I think we would spend, and I think we would spend probably wisely, but I think you'd be an expectation, much like kind of what Ipswich and kind of what Luton Town, even though it didn't work, have kind of done, is that you go up and you build the team for the next season of the championship so that you can go back and then have another crack at it and so on and so forth. So no, I don't think anyone can go up from the championship level and expect just to be mid-table and just be, gone are the days of the Brightons, the Brentfords and that, when they go up and they just seemingly were solid. Do you know what I mean? Unless for some glorious chance another Premier League team is doing that poorly. And we saw it, with Everton and all that, but those teams have been established in the Premier League for years on years on years. They have the budget, they have the pulling power, as much as, we would say we'd like to think we do. They still, if you put Everton next to Middlesbrough or Sunderland or whatever, even those teams down the bottom, they still have the pulling power. So it's tough. I think we'd love to be up there just to have a crack at it. We saw that in 2016 where we came straight back down after having the best defense in the league as well. So no, I don't think it's easy for any team going up, and I don't see any team going up and blowing away the Premier League at this very stage.
Okay, interesting stuff. Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think it is such a big jump. Digital says look at Luton, and so many teams that come up just literally spend their lives in the Premier League at the bottom and go back down. And there is of course exceptions. You look at teams like Nottingham Forest, for example, who came up and ploughed heavily in and took the points deduction and managed to get on a great run. Newcastle, it has to be said, Newcastle were at risk under Ashley of being a yo-yo club, and the time they went down, they came back up rather fortuitously, to do that really under that Ashley regime, but they did. But it is becoming more difficult. The gulf is big. And it's getting bigger, and I think I've said it on here as well. The Premier League at the moment, there is almost just a top and a bottom. There is no middle now. When you look at those kind of results that are happening with the likes of or teams now who have been shrewd with investment or have sold a star player and to play the PSR game. Your Brentfords, your Brightons, your Bournemouths, all of those teams now are in amongst your runners and riders, and on a day can beat anybody. So once upon a time you would probably look at a game and say Fulham, you could probably chuck that in the mix as well and say, that's an easy 3 points. Not anymore. You let the standards drop, you're getting beaten in the Premier League off one of those teams, and that's why it's such an exciting league this season. Nobody's running away with it, and the perennial winners, Man City, are really struggling this season, but you can't break them off. They could put a run together and they could still end up in that top 2, top 3, because now it's all about being in the Champions League. It's about finishing in those Champions League spots. That's where the financial is. And if you don't win the league one year, but you finish in the Champions League, the owners are still happy because that big money's still coming in. Quick one for you, Rye. Rye, what would you think of Giles playing as a left winger and playing in front of Borge?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I was looking at that earlier, and we've actually just been in a debate on Twitter about it as well, of where can you fit in Morgan Whittaker into this front four of Ben Doak, who's solidly on the right, Tommy Conway up front, Bergzorg, who's predominantly played on the left, and then Finn Azaz right behind the striker. How do you fit all of these players in? And look, I argue that Ryan Giles could definitely play left wing. I think there's always been questions about his defensive capability on his tracking back, but I think the style that we have, T-side, I think you and I both know that Ryan Giles plays a better left back than a left wing. And I think the question is, I don't think there's room for Neto Borges and a Ryan Giles in our team. I think you'd be having to leave out a Bergzorg, even a Whittaker now, if Ben Doku could slide over to the left to accommodate that. So no, I don't think I don't think it would happen. I wouldn't want to see it happen because it would likely leave one of those players I just mentioned on the bench. And I think Ryan Giles, for me, has to start at left back now for the rest of the games. I mean, there was a sense for me, and I'm not sure if you felt it, T-side, but when Ryan Giles came into that left back role, it was this sense of, oh my goodness, we finally had it sorted. You know, I mean, we finally got a left back that knows the way we play. We have a left back role that always floats up, and Ryan Giles is the perfect left back for me to do that. And we haven't seen anyone come back in and do what Ryan Giles could do. So Ryan Giles at left back for me, not as a left winger.
Okay, I did have another question as well for you, Ryan. And it was from Tottenham. He says, will Latte be a Borough player on Tuesday, in your opinion?
Tuffy. I messaged Latte just yesterday. Obviously, had a bit of fun with Latte over the years and that, and he didn't say anything back to me. I just said, look, it'd be so sad to see you leave, King, sort of thing. The rumours coming in are quite strong. It's tough though for me. It's always kept screaming that Latte's agent is trying to get a good bid in for his player, and he has gotten that through Atlanta. Obviously, the team that Newcastle quite familiar with Miggy going there as well. Miggy, by the way, 10 mil, and then Latte on top of that. Atlanta, are we good? Like, how rich are you? My goodness me! But £23 million bid for Latte. Just, I think Latte's held it off till the end of January just to see if there's any Premier League interest where he wants to go. And that, I don't think it's come. I don't think I think they've wanted to go, right, let's get a bid in, because that'll start a bidding war and we'll just go get you into the Premier League. And it hasn't happened. And now you've got a bid that Middlesbrough at the club have gone, 23 million, we'll take that. We bought you for 4. You know what I mean? Let's tick that box. And now it's up to Latte. And Latte still, I think, is stalling on it because he wants that Premier League move. I think there is a chance he could be, but I think I would have to lean to the more the more majority that he won't be a Middlesbrough player. I think he'll take the deal. I think he'll go there on a very, very good wicket in terms of money. I think his weekly wages will be astronomical after signing for £23 million from Middlesbrough. A record signing for us as well. So. No, I don't think he will be a Borough player, sadly. I'd love him to be. We don't know how bad this injury to his groin is either. Has that scuppered it? But the thing as well is Middlesbrough will be wanting an answer before the end of January. Even though the MLS window goes longer than our window, Middlesbrough will say you will either be a Middlesbrough player now until the end of the season, or you will go in the next couple of days so we can replace you. I don't think there'll be any if, buts or buts about it with Kieran Scott at charge.
All right, good stuff. Let's have a look ahead to the Newcastle game. David, I'll give this is a good question. Ted's favourite partnership up top, Gabbiadini Gates or Quinn and Phillips? Great question, David.
This is a head and heart thing, because I grew up, obviously, I'm wearing the shirt that Gabbiadini was wearing back in the day. Like, Gabbiadini's one of my favourite players of all time. I absolutely loved watching him. He was so fast, so strong as well. And that a lot of great memories about Gabbiadini and Gates getting us out the old 3rd division. But I do have to go for Quinn and Phillips, because the partnership was just incredible. And Kevin Phillips gets the lion's share of the praise for what he did. Raoul and McCoist, good point, Graham. Good point. Gary Rowell, the Mag Slayer, yes. But Quinn and Phillips for me, hands down. Games like the 4-1 thrashing of Chelsea and Phillips scoring 40-yard volleys and Quinn obviously coming up with the goods time and time again. Niall Quinn was a much better footballer with his feet than what people gave him credit for, by the way. Very, very nice player. Quinn and Phillips for me will always just edge it. Just.
Okay, great stuff. Let's look ahead to Newcastle's game this weekend. We take on Fulham today. It is a good old-fashioned 3 o'clock kickoff. As for the news on teams, Harvey Barnes and Jamal Lascelles are still out. Callum Wilson, as I mentioned earlier, his return won't be this weekend. They're thinking potentially the FA Cup game next weekend. Interesting week for Newcastle as well. They've got league game today, Carabao Cup semi-final Wednesday, and an FA Cup game next week. All 3 competitions in the same week. It doesn't happen very often. Joe Linton, he's hedging towards another suspension. 2 bookings away from a 2-match ban, which he needs to be careful about. This is one of those games I can imagine him certainly getting booked, because Fulham are a little bit feisty. Who are they missing this weekend? Harry Wilson, Reece Nelson and Kenny Tete are all unavailable due to various ailments. And how are Fulham doing? Ahead of their visit to Tyneside, they lost 1-0 to Manchester United on Sunday. Away from home, though, they are not really struggling. Not a bad team at all this season. They've won 4. They beat Forest, Palace, Chelsea and Leicester. They've drawn 4 away from home. Ipswich, Everton, Spurs and Liverpool. And they've lost 3 on the road. Manchester United, Manchester City and West Ham. They have scored twice in each of their last 4 Premier League away games, with 7 of the 8 goals coming in the second half of games. The referee today is Chris Kavanagh. It's the 3rd time he's refereed a Newcastle game, and a new name on VAR this weekend, Alex Chilowich. Never heard of him. I have to keep an eye out for him. Maybe he's a new ref on the scene, so interesting to see that. How do I feel this game is going to go? I am not confident at all, and that'll surprise Newcastle fans, I think. This is more of a banana skin, I felt, than Bournemouth was. I was confident about Bournemouth, but this is a game. This is the type of game that Newcastle lose or draw. I am not going to back Newcastle to lose, but I took a 2-2 draw on this. I think there'll be goals. I think Newcastle will score, but I also think that they're susceptible to conceding a goal. We've had a week off. It's the one thing in Newcastle's favour. We've had a day's more rest than Fulham. They played on Sunday. But yeah, I don't expect Newcastle to win this game. I genuinely think a 2-2, which isn't a bad result, but it depending on everybody else, of course, in the crowd, then I just think it's down to the atmosphere as well. We need to give everybody a bit of a push today. If the crowd and the team are in sync, we might get something out of it. But I'm going to go 2-2. Right. I guess you can see what you're nodding away. I think you can understand why I'm a bit pessimistic about this game.
Yeah, look, obviously they got you in the reverse fixture, didn't they? And the first, goalless sort of effort they've had was against Manchester United last week, which was stunning. I think it's like the first time they haven't scored in 5 games or something in previous times. So, I mean, we all know what Fulham are like. Obviously, we remember that classic, Jackie Chan kick chest to the, in the last sort of, was it last year with Fulham v Newcastle? It was a classic red card. I think it's got one of those banana peels written all over it, doesn't it? I mean, Newcastle seemingly would, get the win over Fulham, but Fulham are a tough team to beat. If they don't, if they're not winning, then they're drawing, and if they're losing, they're only losing by 1 or 2 goals as well. So they seemingly have got it set at the back. Marco Silva as well, I think, is an astute manager. I think he's kind of gone under the radar again. Funny enough to say that. Do you remember when Marco Silva was touted to going absolutely everywhere, and it just sort of didn't happen? And then he stayed at Fulham, and Fulham have just seemingly still, ticked away and done very good recruitment and stuff like that. And they're 10th in the Premier League, so they're not an easy team to push over. I still think just Newcastle at home because of Isak. I just think Isak is the best striker in the Premier League. I think he's just hard. Anyone, I think there's a goal in him every game that I watch him play. So it's just whether Newcastle can handle Fulham's attack, which is very, very potent as well. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 in this one. I think Isak will score, but I think Fulham will get one back, and it'll be a 1-1 at the moment. But look, good game to watch. One of the picks of the afternoon for me.
Okay, what's your feelings on this one, Ted?
I'm the only one with any faith in Newcastle. What's going on here?
Oh, you're trying to do that thing where you predict the win for Newcastle and then you're trying to get it back for last week.
That's true. Never ever predict another Sunderland 5-0 win, Steve. No, I honestly think, listen, taking into what you're just saying there, Fulham have got some very good players. They really do. They're notoriously difficult to beat, but they've just got that little switch in them, like what we talked about with the sending off last season. And it's another one of them where Fulham will be up for this. They will be up for it, but sometimes that can spill over and just turn into silly, yellow cards. If they get bookings early on, it's going to curtail them a little bit. So I genuinely think Fulham might just become a cropper here. I think they'll give you a really rough game. And somebody's already mentioned about coming away with any injuries. I think it was Barry there. That's the one thing that's you've got to kind of watch out for, because they are a very, very physical side. Saying that, I think there's enough quality there in Newcastle's team to actually just pull off the result. So I'm going to go for a very edgy 2-1 win of the Geordies.
Okay, a very edgy 2-1 win. Okay, take a look ahead to the Derbysh and get our predictions about that. Ryan, we will come to you first.
Yes,
so your feelings on this game and a prediction, please.
My feelings on this game is that I'm nervous, I'm scared, I feel nauseous, I've got a tingle at the tip of my groin area that just won't go away because I'm up for this one, and I think it's time for Middlesbrough to start kicking on. It's with Morgan Whittaker coming in, it's just added a little bit more spice, a little bit more excitement for me, and I'm ready to go. Middlesbrough at home, Sunderland, we'll shut the window just after the game as well. I think it's got everything written to it to be a championship classic. I honestly think the way it's going, it will be Sunderland Middlesbrough playoff final. The way it's going, I just see it happening. I just think there's someone looking up from down, from upstairs, looking out for me and Teddy Boy this year, because it just seemingly it'd be too good to be true. And then I fly over there with Ted, you know what I mean, and we punch on, then we have a big cuddle and have a beer afterwards. It's just going to be incredible. But look, I think Middlesbrough are going to get the win here because it's at home. Morgan Whittaker is going to get a goal on his debut as well for me, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be so tough to break down. And the thing that I think I've outlined with Sunderland, and I've said this, I think I said to you last week, their midfield, not only are Bellingham and Chris Rigg good on the ball, but they're so quick. They move the ball so quick because they're so young. They've got so much pace to them. And I think we're going to struggle with that with Hayden Hackney and Aidan Morris. So I still think there's a threat there. I'm going to go 2-0 to the Borough on Riverside on a Monday night. 2-0. Morgan Whittaker's going to score, and I think Patterson's going to help us out and get an own goal.
Ooh, okay. What's your feelings then, Ted?
Well, it's I haven't got the same feeling as Rye's got with the tingling in the tip of my groin. As Digital Rage has already pointed out, you need cranberry juice for that, Rye.
Is that the thing? Okay.
That sounds like a nasty status to me. Listen, I've already said it earlier on. Going to the Riverside is not a happy hunting ground for us. It's 19 years since we've won there, which is absolutely incredible. And we've played there fairly regularly, apart from that stint in League One that we've had.
Yep.
Yeah, 19 years since we won there. The last time we won there, Job Bellingham was 2 days old.
Oh my God!
Tells you everything you need to know.
Wow.
So listen, the last couple of times we've been there, I think we've been almost like second best in the game. To be fair, Rusin got us out of jail with a neat and tidy finish last time around. But it's not been a happy hunting ground. That needs to change. I complained about us not winning away at Swansea this season. We've put the hoodoo at rest finally with that. This is a big one. This is a big one, and I think we will finally get our win at the Riverside and just really compound that gap to pretty irreversible. So I'm actually going to go for another edgy 2-1 win, Sunderland. I do agree. I think Whittaker is your danger man. He's a player who is very similar to Jack Clark, but playing on the opposite side.
Correct, yeah.
He's a one-trick pony. Don't get me wrong, but he's very, very good at that one trick.
Yeah.
He's going to be the danger one. Tommy Conway always plays well against Sunderland as well, so the centre backs are going to have to be switched on. We might even end up going 5 at the back, I think, for this one. I can see that being a real possibility. But that being said, I think there's enough in the tank to get this over the line, and I think we'll get a 2-1 win.
Okay, leaves that to me to come up with my prediction. I think it's
get off the fence. Get off the fence.
I think it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be an entertaining game.
Come on.
I think Middlesbrough need this more than Sunderland. I think off the back of last week's result against Plymouth, Sunderland will be looking for a quick response, but I can't see past a Middlesbrough win.
Yes,
1-0. 1-0 to Borough.
Join me at the bar.
1-0 to Borough. It's going to be an edgy game, but 1-0. 1-0 to Borough. That's where I'm going.
It's like that, is it? I'll leave you to do one show together, and all of a sudden it's a give best mates act. Makes me sick.
Enjoy it, lads. I'm looking forward to watching it. I will be tuning in. We will be back next week for a post-mortem and a celebration for one person. Maybe it's a draw, who knows? But I didn't sit on the fence. That's the main thing. Look,
fair play, mate. Fair play.
Look forward to seeing you all next week. Fab show, gents. Good luck all, says Graham. It's got draw written all over it. That Derby says NUFC. Hickson 3-1 to Borough, says Mr. Rose. That's Sunderland winning them, says Digital. You know how this show works. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. See you next weekend. Bye-bye.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat, it's a promise.